Hey guys, my name is Anthony, and in today's video I'm going to be doing a race stint analysis video, which is going to consist of me talking about the race strategies you need to go through some of the tracks, and then I'll be looking at a race stint from a random person and just seeing exactly what they were doing, what they were thinking during critical laps on a lap stint. And I'll also be talking about, pit lane entries, and I'll be giving an overview of the track. So if you want to see more videos like this and you learned something from this, make sure to hit the like button and stick around by subscribing to the channel. So for today's video, we've got SHZ Felipe, who is very talented at the F1 2020 game. His pace on the game has been incredibly quick, so I thought that I would take one of his recent races that he posted on his YouTube channel at Australia and look at some of the things that went on in that race. So let's get straight into it. So for the first part of this video, I'm going to be talking about race strats, so that if you have a race coming up at Australia and you want to know exactly what the race strats are depending on where you qualify, then here's the race strats. So for Australia, if you're in the top 10, you're most likely going to be doing soft to hards, especially if you've just done qualifying, obviously, because the qualifying is going to take some of the life out of the tires. And the fastest lap that you do in Q2, if you're doing full qualifying, or the fastest lap that you just generally do in short qualifying, is the tires that you're going to be starting on. So there is going to be a little bit of wear, so you're going to want to do soft to hards, and you're going to be pitting around about lap 8, so you're going to be doing approximately 21 laps on the hard tires. However, if you're outside the top 10, then you're probably going to do one of two strats. If you're going for the safe strategy, you're going to be doing mediums to hards, and you're going to be pitting around about lap 13. This is the safer option in terms of tire wear. However, if you want to go with the riskier strategy and be quicker in the race, then you're probably going to be doing mediums to softs, and you'll be pitting for those soft tires on lap 18, but the tire wear risk is a lot higher, so you can end up with a puncture on those medium tires. So moving on to the race stint now, and as you can see, Felipe is on lap 15. We moved all the way up to lap 50 because that's when the race really starts to spice up a little bit. So moving on to that lap now, you can see that he's currently battling for P4. I think he has a Ferrari and a McLaren ahead of him, I believe. I'm not actually watching any footage right now, I'm just recording just off the mic right now. So I believe that it was a McLaren and a Ferrari, and just as he's about to start making some moves, a safety car comes out. So moving on to the end of lap 15 now, you can actually see that Felipe and Saira choose to stay out while some of the other guys went to pit, and I believe the reason why they did this is because at this time they were only on the hard tires for about 8 laps, and obviously hard tires are very durable tires, so they still felt as if there was a lot of life to give in those tires. And after the restart, they felt as if they would still be able to push, and they still had 13 laps to go once the safety car had came out, so there was still quite a lot of laps to go. So you're going to want to be on the tire that's really going to allow you to push for the longest, and that was the hard tire. So in that situation, if you've still got quite a lot of laps to go and a safety car comes out, you're probably going to want to stay on the hard tires if you're on the hard tires and they've not exactly worn out yet. They're not close to being worn out. So moving on to lap 17 now, and you can see that the safety car is going in. So at this point, Felipe's goal is to keep up with Saira whilst also keeping away from Perondi, who's in 3rd place and on the quicker medium tires. You don't want Perondi to get ahead of you because he's going to storm away because he's on the quicker tire, and Saira is one of the quickest drivers on the Xbox platform right now. So Felipe knows at this point that sticking inside of Saira's DRS will benefit him greatly towards the end of the race if he can stick within that DRS for a long period of time. But then moving on to lap 26 now, you can see that Saira has already pulled away quite a big of a gap there. He's already got out of DRS, and that's when the second safety car comes out, and once again Felipe chooses to stay out for a completely different reason this time though. The reason he chose to stay out this time is because in a 50% race there's only 29 laps in an Australian Grand Prix, and the safety car came out at lap 26. So he knows at this point that the safety car is going to go back in either lap 27 or lap 28, which means after the safety car there's only going to be 1 or 2 laps to really drive. So there's not really going to be much of a benefit from going on to a different compound of tire and losing track position. So he chooses to stay out and just keep up with Saira as much as he can after the restart. And speaking of restart, at lap 27, that's when the safety car comes in, which means we're going to have 2 laps, laps 28 and laps 29, to finish off the race. And at this point, Saira had a penalty. I'm not sure if Felipe had a penalty and maybe Saira had 6 seconds worth of penalties, but I'm pretty sure that Saira had a penalty which put Felipe at a huge advantage, because all he has to do is stay within the 2 to 3 second gap of a typical penalty for corner cutting, and he wins the race. So now as we come up to the final lap now, this is the lap that I'm going to do an overview for the track. So as you can see, we're coming up to the first corner, and you want to brake just off the 100-meter board. Try and take as much curb as you can on both the entry and exit, and then you've got the DRS zone there, which at this point in time, Felipe is not in the DRS zone. Coming into turn 3, brake at the black box, down into second gear, try and hug the curb going into this section of corners as much as you can. It's very vital that you stick at the apex, because you'll lose quite a lot of time if you don't make the apexes around here. And then at the end of sector 1, right where the barrier sort of dips in, that's when you want to start braking. Try and take as much curb once again on entry and on exit. And then coming up to this slow speed corner, just after passing the 100-meter board, that's when you want to brake down into third gear or second gear in this occasion, and take as much curb as you can on exit. And then coming up to this long sort of left-hander, that's pretty much flat out, and then we go into the quick S's just after the 50-meter board. Just roll the car pretty much into those corners and just hope that the car sticks. And then coming up to this corner after the DRS zone, just after the 100-meter board, brake down into fourth gear. Felipe uses third gear in this occasion, but usually want to be in fourth gear, and then hold this one in fifth gear. I think it's just because the tires are pretty dead at this point. As you can see, that's why he's using lower gears, just to get the car a little bit slowed down because it doesn't have as much grip. But coming up to the final corner now, he manages to stay within the gap of Saira's penalty, which means that Felipe ended up winning this race, and he won it in pretty good fashion as well. It was a pretty good drive from him, and I'm sure that he's very proud of this wins. So lastly, we're going to be talking about where to brake when it comes to the pit lane entry, because I know a lot of you guys are struggling with that and you want to know where to pit. So when it comes to pitting, you see the last Rolex sign at the top on the right hand side. As you're about to pass that, that's when you start braking. Try and brake as late as you possibly can without braking too late. Obviously, it doesn't really matter too much if you lock up the tires, because you're going into the pits to change tires, so it doesn't really matter if you lock up the tires. Just try and brake as late as you can without braking too late, and that just comes down to knowing where to brake and obviously having the confidence to brake. So I'm going to finish the video off there. If you enjoyed this episode of the race stint analysis and you want to see more and you're new to the channel, make sure to hit the like button and stick around by subscribing to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.